Hello, everybody from Phoenix Muni. That's it in blank. I'm Kobe Bronstein, fresh off of a two-game set against Long Beach State here at home. Able to take both. We're the Arizona State Sun Devils, and in run rule fashion as well. Offensively, the team really was able to gather some momentum, continue it throughout the two games, and they're also on a 5-game winning streak. 3 straight run rule victories heading back to the last victory against BYU, and then 2 in a row here against Long Beach State.
I thought so. This was a very tricky series. They kind of all are the rest of the way, but this was especially tricky because this is, I haven't looked and confirmed this, but I would imagine the worst RPI team you're playing this season. Cal State Northridge might be the other one, but this was not a team with a very high RPI. They were in the 150s, I think, at one point. So this was a series where winning didn't really do you a ton of good in moving up, but losing would have done a lot to move you back. So this was good, just kind of stay the course. That is the mantra the rest of the way here. As long as you don't have any crazy unforeseen losses, you're good, and you're on a course to do well in the postseason. But good wins. Yesterday they started a little bit slow, only a couple of hits through the first half of the ball game, and then Isaiah Jackson had a 2-run home run to give him a 2-1 lead in, I think, the 6th inning, and it kind of just woke everybody up. It sprung them back to life. And from there on, they get into a mercy in the 8th. Today was a lot better because they put up 8 in the first inning. After a rocky start from Wyatt Halverson, they were able to put up 8 in their first at bat. And from there on, there was not really a chance for Long Beach State to come back. They looked really good at the plate. The pitching today and yesterday was very good, especially out of the bullpen. I was very impressed. This is a team that you should be playing your best baseball against, and you played your best baseball against them this year. This was very reminiscent, especially at the plate this series, of the best performances at the plate that we've seen from the last two teams who had just tremendous offenses, and I think this team is kind of trying to get to that level, and this week certainly showed that they're capable of doing it.
Since last Tuesday, a loss at GCU. They'll be playing GCU coming up in just a little bit, but they have to take care of business in Waco, Texas against Baylor. But since that loss last Tuesday, they have won 5 straight games, 3 against BYU, as we mentioned, the last 2 against Long Beach State. And then they take on Baylor, as I just mentioned. They have the momentum offensively. They're going to have Ben Jacobs on the mound on Friday. So this is a team as confident as ever. Willie Bloomquist said that multiple times, and you got to be feeling good if you're Sun Devil Nation right now.
That was, a week ago? That game was on Tuesday last week, so just over a week ago that Willie Bloomquist had not a lot to say after the loss to Grand Canyon, where they were leading most of the way. And it seemed like this could be headed, at the most important, crucial juncture of the season for a very rocky outcome. Credit where credit is due. This team completely changed themselves, even going into Thursday against BYU. They turned it around immediately, and it was a very different Willie Bloomquist the last couple of nights in that press conference, one that I think feels a lot more confident in the state of his program, or not the state of his program, the state of his team right now, and where they are. So, there a lot of credit to what they've done over the last week or 8 days or whatever you want to call it, since that GCU loss, what they have done to turn this around. Not exactly against the highest caliber opponents, but it's college baseball. Every night you got to battle for that win. So hopefully they can continue that coming into this weekend. It would be, if this lineup continues to produce like they have the last 5 games, there's not a team in the country that wants to see them at the 2 or 3 line in that regional. You don't want to see them anywhere in the postseason.
Right, and again, losing that game last Tuesday against GCU, that could be a game and a matchup again. GCU, not exactly a Power 4 program. That could be one for ASU where they could say, GCU has nothing to lose. They're the underdog. They have confidence because they know, again, that they have nothing to lose, and that could be a tricky situation for ASU. You mentioned that a little bit earlier, that this series could have been tricky, but ASU able to take care of business in convincing fashion against Long Beach State. Just want to mention today a couple standout performances. Kian Vu broke the ASU single-game record in stolen bases, one that Willie Bloomquist had initially with 4. And he had 6. Once he got to 5, he said, 1 pitch later, I'm going to dart and take third. He was able to take that. So Willie had a nice laugh post-game saying, basically all his imprints or his footprints that he had on the program in terms of the record book are all gone. But safe to say that Willie Bloomquist is very happy and impressed with his team's performance the last 2 games.
Well, I would take that as a sign that he wants to create more imprints in this program as a manager and hopefully leave more than just his playing legacy. But yeah, he said that the red light was on with Kean and Kean blow through it. He was in that last at bat. I think the whole stadium was kind of rooting for him to get on because 2 and he would have hit the NCAA record. If he had somehow stolen second, third, and home, he would have broke the NCAA record. But, at that point, it's all fun and games. He was, I think that's kind of how he was. But the biggest thing with that, Kobe, is the confidence. If you want to take something serious out of it, the confidence that he has now, even, I would say 2 to 3 weeks ago, coming back off that injury. He was in the lineup, but nobody would have predicted he would steal 6 bases. So for him to, he had the ankle injury, he came back, wasn't really himself. He started to look more like Kean Vu, and man, that's another dangerous aspect of this lineup. If he not only can continue hitting, but we saw a lot of this speed early in the season. If he can continue moving on the base pass like that, this is no one's ever really seen an Arizona State team that's fast and taking this many bases. So this could be a big weapon if he can develop it, and you want him at his most confident. You needed him at full strength to make this playoff push, and it seems like that's close to where he's at.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. Another player with another standout performance today, Kyle Walker, 4 for 5 outside of a ground out. He had 3 singles and then what looked like to be a single in his last at bat, able to leg it out for a double. Just a beautiful hustle play by Walker, and it speaks to his poise, his confidence. We know that he has a very aggressive approach at the plate, and he's been able to continue that consistently for a lot of these games recently.
Well, I'm always confused because I look, a lot of these guys are getting draft recognition, rightfully so. Kyle Walker just never gets talked about, at least from what I see in those conversations. If I'm an MLB team, just based on watching him run the bases, I'd like Kyle Walker on my team. He almost leaped over. We missed that. A little ball on the left side of the infield. He was coming home. He almost jumped over. He did jump over, but almost got around the catcher and scored. That just doesn't happen a lot with Major League Baseball players. So aside from, the tremendous defense, he's been tremendously defensively sound. And the hitting, he's been, the leadoff guy at the plate with ASU, one of their biggest power hitters. The speed alone should get him looks. And I have no doubt that he will get drafted, and I hope coming here has boosted his draft stock as much as I think he thought it would, getting recognized on a national scale and potentially, even more in the postseason. So, if you're looking at Kyle Walker, there's no reason that if you're an MLB team, you shouldn't be thinking about taking him wherever that may be.
Kyle Walker, first-year Sun Devil, a transfer from Grambling State. Another first-year Sun Devil has been outstanding all season long. And Matt King, a transfer from UTSA, he's still hitting above 410 on the season. Ridiculous numbers. Another player of note, especially the last 30 games or so, has really made an impact offensively is Landon Harrison. Just a freshman, a local kid, a family lineage of players in the MLB, including his dad, Scott Harrison. What have you seen from Landon that has made him so effective at the plate and have so much poise for being one of the youngest players on the team?
He's got confidence, and that's what happens when you grow up. First of all, you played high school baseball in Arizona. That develops a lot of confidence. Willie has done a great job bringing in guys that are local, that know this landscape, that are not intimidated, playing in this climate in front of these fans. Landon said he's followed this program. He committed 3 years ago. He's followed this program for 3 years, so he's been at these games. He knows what's expected of him. He knows about the culture that Willie's trying to build. And then in addition to that, it's the lineage. His grandfather played in the Negro Leagues. His father played Major League Baseball for quite some time, and he still trains with him out in his home. So, the comfortability, certainly, being close to home, that seems to be a thing with all these Arizona guys, but also the fact that, this is not new. I'm sure he fully expects to play Major League Baseball, whether he'll say it openly or not. He fully expects to play Major League Baseball. It's a confidence thing with him. When he goes up there, he's taking great at-bats. And Willie kind of mentioned that in the press conference, that this is just a guy that oozes confidence. And, man, this is him as a freshman. Imagine 2 years down the road, his junior year, his draft year, he comes in here. He could be hitting like close to 500 depending on how things go. He's only getting better. So he's been amazing to watch. And, yeah, you've really... Considering how no one really struggled in the beginning of the season outside of Kyle, but those three guys, King, Hairston, and Walker, I mean, they've developed, and they are at where you need them to be right now. 1, 2, 3. You can't pitch around this top of the order.
It's crunch time for the Devils. They have just a couple weeks remaining, a couple of series. Obviously, they go to Waco this weekend. But they've also reached, or they're trying to reach, a territory that they haven't yet under the tutelage of Willie Bloomquist to make it to the postseason. It seems like they're able to control their own destiny, but what are some of your final thoughts heading into the last couple of weeks, as this is our last game here for the two of us at Phoenix Muni?
Yeah, I've always kind of been on the side since the preseason with this team of they're probably going to find a way in. There's too much talent on this team that they wouldn't be able to find a way in. And it looks like hopefully this weekend they kind of cracked open the potential that we all had been waiting to see from them. So if that can continue the next 3 weeks, very easily they will make it in. As far as hosting goes, they've never hosted here at Muni. It's going to be a bit tough. That Cincinnati series is really not going to do them any solids in terms of getting in the top 16. They probably have to win the Big 12 at this point, unless they were to win like their last 10. If they won 10 in a row, that's a different conversation, but I would say they probably have to win the Big 12 to host. Would be nice to host here. It'd be incredible. We've never seen a regional here before, and they certainly had a lot at Packard. But aside from that, I came into the weekend thinking they were probably 60-40 odds that they were going to make the tournament. I came out thinking they're probably at 70-30 at this point. Just not even based on who they beat, but the way that they beat them and the way that this team has confidence right now and the way that the pitching came out, all these freshmen, and it's hard to see this team going through what, they have in past years and missing the tournament. So anything is possible, of course, and they obviously, that's why, Willie told them, we really need to lock in these last, bunch of games and unlock that potential, which they did. So I'm excited as you are to see how this season plays out. They'll have 2 on the road and 1 at home. You'll go to Baylor this weekend. Baylor's sneaky good team that has, very similar numbers, especially on the mound. They own some pretty good wins, just like ASU. They own some pretty bad losses, just like ASU. So it's 2 teams, in my mind, that are tournament contenders trying to, get into seeding conversations for the Big 12 tournament, and then, of course, bolster their resume. Whoever wins this weekend, especially if they could sweep, is going to get a nice big boost on that resume for the tournament. You have the GCU midweek. Biggest thing with that is going to be avenging that loss that you had at GCU if you can win it. I think you probably just call it, the tournament committee would probably just call it a scratch. You lose 2 to GCU, they're still going to win their conference, I think, so that's okay, but you don't want to lose 2 to them. Especially with it being a rivalry game. Home series with Houston, not much to talk about. Houston has not had a great program this year. You should be able to sweep them. It's your last home series of the season. Everyone will be nice and up for Senior Day. Should win that. And then Oklahoma State, there are a lot of things that could be happening in that series. You haven't done too well at Oklahoma State this year, in previous years, because you played them in non-cons. Never played them in a 3-game series there under Willie, at least. So I'm curious to see how that goes. They haven't been having a great season either. So they're 3 winnable series. I would say that's probably the one that I have my eye on the most because, there's so much that could be going on in that series. Are you playing to try and get into the tournament? Are you playing to make it a top 4 seed in the Big 12 tournament? Are you playing potentially, if things go well enough, for a regular season crown in the Big 12? There's a lot that could be on the line that weekend to close out the season. Then you go to the Big 12s. Obviously, that'll be new and exciting for everybody. And then, hopefully for those in there, they're in the NCAA regionals and don't miss it for the 4th straight season, which would be unprecedented territory. They're not thinking about that. We clearly can report they're not thinking about, what happens if we miss. They're thinking we're going to break the streak, we're going to get in, and I'll tell you, I don't think it's going to really matter to them where they are, whether they're on the East Coast, in the Midwest. There will be some West Coast regionals, no matter who's hosting. This is a dangerous team if they play that way. This is a very dangerous team, not one that I would want to, bring in for a regional. That is a sneaky good team that could knock off some teams, especially if they get, maybe a little underseeded as a 3, one of the later 3 seeds, and they have a chip on their shoulder, which they will probably no matter what. Sneaky team coming out of Tempe, Arizona if they get put in a regional, and hopefully that's where we're talking next.
I think bottom line, a lot more questions than answers. That's going to do it for our coverage here at Phoenix Muni. It's been a great season, but it's not over quite yet. They have 3 games, as we mentioned, in Waco. I think most importantly for ASU, it's 1 game at a time, considering, again, that there's more questions than answers. A very important series this weekend. They'll be back at home next week in that midweek against GCU, trying to get revenge against the Lopes, and then also in that 3-game series against Houston. So a lot of very interesting storylines down the stretch. That's Aiden Blank. I'm Kobe Bronstein. That's going to do it for your midweek series here at Phoenix Muni. 5 in a row for ASU. Back-to-back wins against Long Beach State. Stay tuned with the Devils and House of Sparky all season long for coverage on ASU Baseball.